Extreme weather risk is increasing across eastern Australia. A developing tropical low, severe thunderstorms, flash flooding potential. That is what we're dealing with over the next 72 hours. I've examined the latest data from the Bureau of Meteorology, gone through the model outputs, and what we are looking at is a complex setup that deserves your attention, not panic. Attention. Right now across South East Queensland, conditions have been volatile. Mount Carbine recorded 31 degrees at 10:30 this morning with humidity at 92%. Minimum overnight was 27 degrees. That oppressive. That warm, humid air mass has been sitting over the region all week, and it is creating the fuel for significant storm activity. The past 2 days have already shown us what this air mass can do. Areas around Laidley and Blackbutt have copped severe thunderstorms with intense lightning and damaging winds, trees ripped out of the ground in some locations. The interesting thing is most weather apps showed little to no chance of storms, yet they fired up anyway. That tells you something about the instability we're dealing with. When conditions are this primed, storms don't need much of a trigger. Brisbane itself has stayed mostly dry despite the activity around it. That is frustrating when you need rain, but it's also typical of these setups. The storms have been training around the city rather than through it. Now here, where it gets more serious, we've got a tropical low developing in the Coral Sea. This system is still taking shape, but the latest from the Bureau shows it in a favourable environment for intensification. Sea surface temperatures are running above average. Wind shear is relatively low. The monsoon trough is active. All the ingredients are there. Let me walk you through what the models are showing because there's some disagreement we need to discuss. The Access model that the Bureau's main forecasting tool has this low tracking southwest toward the North Queensland coast over the next 3 to 4 days. It's showing the system potentially crossing the coast somewhere between Cairns and Townsville by Friday or Saturday. If that verification plays out, we're relooking at heavy rainfall, damaging wind gusts and dangerous surf along the coast. The GFS model is a bit further south with the track. It is bringing the low closer to central Queensland, possibly impacting areas around Mackay and the Whitsundays. That would shift the heaviest rain band south as well. The European model sits somewhere in between. It's got the low crossing near Townsville, but weakening more quickly once it moves inland. What does this mean practically? The exact landfall location is still uncertain. That is normal at this lead time. But what we can say with confidence is that North Queensland and potentially parts of central Queensland need to be prepared for significant impacts from this system. Current intensity projections have this remaining a tropical low rather than developing into a named cyclone. But don't let that fool you. Tropical lows can still pack a punch. We're re-looking at potential rainfall totals of 100 to 200 millimetres across a broad area with isolated falls, up to 300 millimetres in the heaviest hit locations. That is serious rain. Flash flooding is a real concern, particularly in areas that have already seen storms and have saturated soils. Wind gusts could reach 80 to 100 kilometres per hour near the centre of the low. Coastal areas will see higher gusts. If you're in a caravan or temporary structure, you need to be thinking about relocating to solid shelter ahead of this system. The timeline looks like this. Today through tomorrow, the low continues to organise in the Coral Sea. We'll see increasing shower and storm activity across the North Queensland coast as the outer bands start to interact with the land. Wednesday into Thursday, the system moves closer. Conditions deteriorate significantly along the coast. Heavy rain sets in, winds increase. By Friday, we're re-looking at potential landfall, though again, the exact location is still being refined by the models. For those in far north Queensland, here is what you should be doing now. Secure loose items around your property. Anything that can blow away in strong winds needs to be tied down or brought inside. Stock up on essentials. Water, non-perishable food, batteries, fuel. If the power goes out, you want to be sorted. Fill the bathtub with clean water before the system arrives. Gives you drinking water and water for flushing. If the supply gets compromised, check your emergency kit. Torch, battery-powered radio, first aid supplies, important documents in waterproof bags. Make sure your phone is charged. Have a power bank ready. If you are in a flood-prone area, know your evacuation route. Don't wait until the water rising to figure out where you are going. The SES will issue warnings if evacuations become necessary, but it's better to leave early than to get trapped. Now let's talk about what is happening further south because the tropical low isn't the only story. South East Queensland has this incredibly unstable air mass in place. We've seen that play out over the past 48 hours with those severe storms. that pattern continues, the combination of heat, humidity and daytime heating is enough to trigger storms even without a major synoptic feature driving them. This afternoon and evening, expect more thunderstorms to develop across the southeast. They'll be hit and miss, as they have been. Some areas will cop heavy rain, frequent lightning and damaging wind gusts. Other areas nearby might stay completely dry. That's the nature of isolated severe storms. The key risk areas are the ranges and inland areas west of Brisbane. Blackbutt, Laidley, the Lockyer Valley, these regions have already proven they in the firing line. The storms seem to favour that terrain. If you're in those areas, keep an eye on the sky this arvo. When you see towering clouds building, that's your cue to move inside and away from windows. For Brisbane itself, the chance of storms exists, but they are more likely to stay north and west of the city. You might cop the edge of something, but the bulk of the activity should track around you. That said, if one does come through, it'll bring a lot of rain in a short time. The drainage systems can handle normal rain, but these cells are dumping 20 to 40 millimetres in under an hour. That causes localised flooding pretty quickly. Gold Coast and northern New South Wales are in a similar boat. Isolated severe storms possible this afternoon and evening. The primary risks are heavy rainfall leading to flash flooding and damaging wind gusts. Large hail is less likely with this setup, but can be ruled out entirely. By Thursday, the storm activity across southeast Queensland starts to ease as drier air begins to filter in from the west. That doesn't mean you out of the woods entirely, but the frequency and intensity should drop off. Now, rainfall accumulations over the next 3 days across southeast Queensland look like this. The coastal fringe and ranges could see 50 to 100 millimetres. Most of that will come from isolated heavy falls rather than steady rain. Inland areas will see less, maybe 20 to 40 millimetres, again highly dependent on whether you are under a storm cell or not. Temperature-wise, maximums across the southeast are running in the low to mid-30s. Minimums aren't dropping below the mid-20s. That lack of overnight cooling is part of what's keeping the atmosphere so unstable. You are not getting that reset. The humidity stays locked in. If you've been feeling crook lately, headaches, sinus issues, general fatigue, you're not alone. This kind of weather pattern takes a toll. The constant humidity, the pressure changes with the storms, the temperature fluctuations, it wears people down. Unfortunately, it's not settling down until we get a proper change through, and that's not happening for at least another few days. Let me shift focus to the forecast models and what they were telling us about the broader pattern, because understanding this helps explain why we restuck in this setup. At the upper levels of the atmosphere, we've got a blocking high pressure system sitting over the Tasman Sea. That high is essentially acting like a roadblock. It's preventing weather systems from moving through in their normal west to east fashion. Instead, everything is getting steered around it. The tropical low is being guided by that blocking pattern. Depending on the exact position and strength of the high, the low will either track toward North Queensland or veer more toward the central coast. That's why the models are showing different solutions. South of the high, there is a weak trough extending from inland New South Wales down into Victoria. That trough isn't deep enough to bring significant rain to the southern states, but it is providing some lift and instability. Combined with the heat, that's enough for isolated storm activity. The jet stream is currently well to the south of Australia. That means we don't have any strong upper-level support for weather systems across the mainland. Everything is being driven by surface features and local instability. That makes forecasting tricky because small changes in surface conditions can have big impacts on where storms develop. Looking at the sea surface temperatures, the Coral Sea is running 1 to 2 degrees above average. That is providing extra energy for the tropical low. Warmer water means more evaporation, more moisture in the atmosphere, more fuel for the system. It also means the low is less likely to weaken quickly once it forms. The monsoon trough across northern Australia is active. That's normal for this time of year, but it's particularly robust at the moment. The trough is providing a focus for convection and low pressure development. Our tropical low is essentially a wave on that trough that's intensifying. Longer term, beyond this weekend, the models are showing the blocking high starting to weaken and shift east. That should allow a more typical westerly flow to return across southern Australia. For the north, the monsoon pattern is likely to continue through February, so periods of heavy rain and storm activity will remain a feature. Now, for those of you in other parts of the country, here is your outlook. In New South Wales, away from the north coast, you are in a relatively benign pattern. Sydney and the central coast will see partly cloudy conditions with the chance of an afternoon shower or storm. Nothing severe expected. Temperatures in the high 20s to low 30s, overnight minimums in the high teens to low 20s. The southern tablelands and snowy mountains will be cooler. Daytime maximums in the mid-20s, overnight lows dropping to single digits in some elevated areas. No significant rain expected, just the odd light shower. Victoria, you are in a dry pattern. Melbourne will see mostly sunny conditions with light winds, maximums around 28 to 30 degrees, overnight lows in the mid-teens. The lack of rain is starting to become a concern for water storage levels, particularly in some of the rural catchments. This dry spell continues for at least another week. Tasmania is the coolest part of the country right now. Hobart will see maximums in the low 20s with overnight lows around 10 to 12 degrees. Partly cloudy with light winds. The northwest coast might see a few showers as weak fronts brush past, but nothing significant. South Australia, Adelaide is looking at sunny conditions with maximums in the high 20s. Overnight lows in the mid-teens. The agricultural areas are starting to dry out after recent rain. The next decent rainfall event looks to be at least a week away, possibly longer. Western Australia, Perth is in a typical summer pattern. Sunny days with afternoon sea breezes, maximums in the low to mid-30s. The southwest had good winter rains, so water storages are in reasonable shape. The northern parts of WA are getting into the wet season proper. The Kimberley and Pilbara are seeing regular storm activity. That continues over the coming weeks. Northern Territory, Darwin, and the top end are in full wet season mode. Afternoon and evening storms are a daily occurrence. Heavy rain, frequent lightning, strong winds. That's typical for this time of year. Maximums around 33 to 35 degrees with high humidity. Minimums in the mid-20s. The build-up is well and truly over. This is the wet, and it'll continue through March and into April. Coming back to the immediate concerns, if you are in North Queensland from Cairns north to Cape York, you need to be monitoring this tropical low closely. Check the Bureau of Meteorology website regularly. They'll be issuing tropical cyclone advice and warnings as the system develops. Don T rely on social media or weather apps for this. Go to the official source. The BOEM will provide updated track maps, intensity forecasts and impact assessments. Pay attention to the coastal crossing time and location. Even if the centre of the low crosses well away from you, the rain bands can extend hundreds of kilometres from the centre. You can still cop heavy rain and strong winds even if you are not in the direct path. For marine interests, the Coral Sea is becoming increasingly dangerous. Seas are building ahead of the low. Wind waves and swell are both increasing. If you are on the water, you should be heading for shelter now. This is not the time to be out there. Coastal waters from Cooktown down to Mackay will see hazardous conditions over the next 3 to 4 days. Flooding is the primary concern with this system. North Queensland has seen good rain over recent weeks. The catchments are wet. River levels are already elevated in some areas. This tropical low has the potential to push those rivers into minor or moderate flood. The Burdekin, the Herbert, the Tully, the Barron, these systems could all see rises. If you're in a low-lying area near any of these rivers, have a plan. Know where you will go if flooding occurs. Don to drive through floodwater. Every year we say it, and every year people ignore it. If it's flooded, forget it. That's not just a slogan, it's potentially life-saving advice. Floodwater is stronger than you think. It only takes 60 centimetres of fast-flowing water to wash away a car. For rural properties, livestock need to be moved to higher ground if you are in a flood-prone area. Secure equipment and fuel. Check your generators are working. If you lose power, you want to know the backup systems function. The storm activity across South East Queensland, while not as severe as a tropical low, still requires respect. These isolated severe cells can cause significant damage in a localised area. We've already seen trees uprooted. Power lines can come down in strong winds. If you see a power line on the ground, assume it is live, stay well clear and report it to the authorities. Lightning is another serious risk. We've had spectacular lightning displays over the past couple of nights. Frequent lightning, some very close strikes. If you hear thunder, you are close enough to be struck. Get inside a solid building or a vehicle. Don T shelter under trees. Don T stand in open areas. Wait 30 minutes after the last thunder before going back outside. Heavy rain from these storms can cause flash flooding very quickly. If you're driving and encounter rising water on the road, turn around. Find an alternative route. Don't try to push through. It's not worth the risk. For those with elderly neighbours or mates in isolated areas, check on them. Make sure they're aware of what's coming. Offer to help with preparations if needed. This community-minded approach makes a real difference in severe weather events. Looking at the fire danger situation, it is not a major concern across most of Eastern Australia at the moment due to the moisture and storm activity. However, parts of Victoria and southern New South Wales that haven't seen recent rain do have elevated fire danger ratings on days when northerly winds develop. That's not the case over the next few days, but it's worth keeping in mind as we move further into summer. Total fire bans aren't in place currently, but that can change quickly. If you're replanning any burn-offs or activities involving fire, check the current fire danger rating and any restrictions in your area first. The extended outlook, looking out 7 to 10 days, shows the tropical low moving inland and weakening after it crosses the coast. The remnant low will bring rain to inland Queensland, possibly extending into northern New South Wales. That's actually beneficial for those areas which have been dry. The South East Queensland storm pattern should ease by late this week as drier air works in from the west. That LOL bring more stable conditions, though isolated storms will still be possible on any given afternoon with the heat and humidity we have. For southern Australia, the dry pattern continues. No significant rain systems are evident in the models for at least the next 10 days. That's a concern for water storages and agriculture, but there's not much we can do about it. The pattern is what it is. One thing I want to emphasise is the uncertainty that still exists with the tropical low track and intensity. We still 3 to 4 days out from the potential crossing. At this lead time, forecast errors of 100 to 200 kilometres in the crossing location are normal. The system could be stronger or weaker than currently projected. What that means is you can afford to assume you are safe because the current forecast has the system passing to your north or south. If you are anywhere from Cooktown to Mackay, you are in the potential impact zone. Prepare now. Wait until Thursday to start getting ready. The Bureau will continue to refine the forecast as better data becomes available. Satellite imagery is being closely monitored. The tropical cyclone forecast models are being run multiple times per day. Aircraft reconnaissance isn't currently planned, but that could change if the system intensifies further. For the weather enthusiasts among you, the satellite loops are worth watching. You can see the convection beginning to organise around the low centre. The spiral banding isn't fully developed yet, but it's starting to take shape. That organisation will become more apparent over the next 24 to 48 hours. The question of whether this becomes a named tropical cyclone depends on the sustained wind speeds. If winds reach 63 kilometres per hour averaged over 10 minutes, it'll be classified as a Category 1 cyclone and given a name. Current indications are it'll stay just below that threshold, but at S borderline. Either way, the impacts are similar. Heavy rain and damaging winds are on the cards regardless of the classification. Right. To wrap this up, we've got a complex weather situation developing across eastern Australia. A tropical low in the Coral Sea threatening North Queensland with heavy rain and strong winds. Ongoing severe thunderstorm activity across southeast Queensland and a broader pattern that's keeping things unsettled across the eastern states. If you're in North Queensland, take this seriously. Prepare your property. Stock up on essentials. Have a plan. Monitor the Bureau S updates. Don't leave it until the last minute. If you're in southeast Queensland, expect more storms over the next couple of days. They'll be hit and miss, but where they hit, they'll be severe. Stay weather aware, especially this afternoon and evening. For the rest of the eastern states, your impacts are minimal at this stage, but keep an eye on how this system develops. Weather patterns can shift. This is a reminder that we're in the heart of the tropical wet season and the summer storm season. These events are part of the natural cycle, but that doesn't make them any less dangerous when they occur. Respect the weather. Take the warning seriously. Look after yourselves and your mates. I'll be monitoring this situation closely and will provide updates as the system develops. The Bureau of Meteorology is your primary source for official warnings and forecasts.